about time.
Yeah, the camera. You don't want me to move the computer, right?
No, don't touch that. I might have to stay on because it's streaming on my end with this computer.
The whole time?
Yeah. I'm gonna log out. You are live.
Okay.
Oh, it's not showing me. You're good.
Okay. Hey everybody, Jerome Maldonado. Welcome to Real Talk on Real Estate. It's Wednesday afternoon and it's 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And today I'm excited because I have a good, not only do I have a great guest, but I have a good friend that's joining me today. And so it's always cool when you get to hang out with a good buddy and a good friend any day, right? So I feel privileged today to have David Carbajal come in, hang out with me for the afternoon, spend the next 40 minutes or so with you guys. And what's real cool about David is I'm not going to rain on his parade by telling his story. But man, I've grown to love this guy like a brother because when you see somebody that goes out and they're doing good things, and there's very few people that are really genuinely going out there and doing good things and big things. It's great, you know. At a young age, this gentleman went out, got his degree, like everybody tells us to go out and do, get a good education. And then he went in and got into project management. And not only did he get into project management at a young age, but he dominated the project management side. And so everything that we do in real estate, everything that we're doing in construction, everything that we're teaching about buying a lot, building a house, buying a big apartment complex, renovating it, it all fits into line to what David does every single day. And so much so that he's been able to run multi-million-dollar projects. And I'm not talking like tiny $20 million projects that I'm doing, right? You know, $20, $30 million projects. These guys are running big, $100 million plus projects. And it's a $1 billion a year development company that he works with. And so I wanted to bring David in more than anything today to share with you guys and bring some light on his real life experience running these big jobs. But not only these big jobs, how it relates to even from the smallest house to some of the biggest projects. So David, welcome, bro. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I know when you first brought this up, I was on board 100%, and I'm definitely excited to be here. As Jerome mentioned, I can go back and remember 100, 200 different stories and the issues that come up daily on a job site. And if you've done any project, regardless of the size, you are going to hit obstacles. That's a guarantee. But it's, making sure that they're not obstacles that are going to cripple the project, and that your key performance indicators, your key metrics, which, are schedule, budget, and, cost, are in line and are not getting out of control. So there's definitely a lot of lessons learned that I've had, and happy to be here to share some of those with you guys.
Yeah, that's awesome. David, tell me a little about, you're up in the California market. How are things in the California market? I know people think that everybody's kind of jumping ship and leaving California, including all the big companies and small companies. But from your perspective going in, has there been any slowdown in the California market from your perspective?
No. And it's funny you say that. I was just reading another article on how, material prices, lumber prices are just insane, which we all know they are definitely up there. But if you look at, let's use residential homes, for example, sale prices on homes are insane. So it substantiates, the ad and the material cost. It still makes it a viable development, product at the end of the day.
So with everybody that's moving out of California, how long is the average home on the market right now in California? Do you know?
It's probably 10 days. I mean, things are flying. And so, I mean, the headlines are saying everyone's moving out of California. And I do know a good group of people that are, but people are buying the houses and there's still people here. And the freeway doesn't look like people are moving out of California. I'll tell you that.
Well, we get hammered with taxes out there, but David and I are going to be doing some stuff similar to what Kyle Mitchell and Gary and I are doing in Phoenix, and similar to what Ramez and I are doing up in the Northwest, up in the Seattle area. David and I will soon be bringing you guys some projects that him and I will be spearheading together down in the California area. And I love California. I know that the state tax wise has been hit hard, but I had a place in Laguna Beach over off of PCH Highway. My wife and I love it. We got married there on a Montage property back when we got married in 2006. And you know, I love the coastal area, and we're going to buy again out there. It's sooner than later. I've been waiting for the market to plummet. You know, what's funny is that I remember going out there in 2009 and looking at the market and researching what the house prices were pre economic crisis of 2008, right? So the highest that they went up on the peak end around about was about $1,150 to $1,200 per square foot on single family homes. And they were down in the $600 per square foot range. So in half almost, not quite half, but almost half the price. And so we went in buying at that price. Well, when the prices escalated up to about 950, just shy of 1,000, we were like, okay, we should probably sell, because there's no way they're going to get to where they were pre-recession. And David, last time I looked, it's been about a year. So I haven't even looked this past year during all this stuff that's going on with COVID, but the prices were just shy of $1,400 a square foot on average up in like the Laguna Beach, Dana Point, Michigan. All that area up there was just all about $1,400 a square foot, which means that they went up another $500 a square foot from the time that we sold. And they may even be as high as, God, I don't know, 1,600 a square foot now?
No, they are. They're right up there, actually. I checked the other day. I was looking in the Balboa Peninsula area, and it 1,700-1,800 in some of those areas, man. Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah, I should have held on my money.
Yeah, you can always say that. Yeah, that's always the case.
We're all the same, you know. It's one of those things you're like, if I could just have a crystal ball, and everybody thinks that it's like that. If I just have a crystal ball. And, you know, same thing in Phoenix, though. Last thing I bought in Phoenix prior to what we're buying now in the last year was 2017. And in 2017, when I was looking at the market, I sat back and scratched my head and said, damn, these guys that are buying these apartment complexes are freaking crazy. And I just landed up buying at the right time, and I had the right deal, and it was an off-market deal, and got in where I felt was just perfect. Now I'm looking back and going, holy shit, we scored in 2017, and I wish I'd have bought more, because the prices have escalated so much higher just in the last 3-4 years. It's been unbelievable. And now I'm sitting back saying the same thing. I'm going, okay, I'm not touching multifamily unless I can create multifamily out of distressed assets. And so that kind of brings us to what we're talking about today. Tell everybody a little bit about your background before we get started on some of the stuff that I wanted them to talk about, and just tell them a little bit how you got into project management and construction, and how lucrative you've seen it be for not only yourself as a project manager, but for the owners and the investors of some of the projects that you've worked on.
Absolutely. So I'm 34 years old, and I've been in construction for almost 20 years now, which is, you know, pretty crazy. But I went to a high school where we were offered technologies as electives. And from there, I was in construction, technology and management as my elective. From there, I went to Arizona State and got my degree in construction engineering. And right after that, and that was in 2008, 2009, when, you know, everything was falling apart, which, you know, it was a bad year. But luckily, I was already interning with a big $4 billion a year general contractor, you know, across the US. And so right out of college, I got hired full-time with them. I worked my way up and became a project manager. I worked for them for about 8 years, did a lot of just some hospital work, did a lot of retail, did some work at Disneyland. So I got a big, you know, a vast majority of my commercial experience there. And then I went over to the owner developer side 6 or 7 years ago, and started doing the management of hotel developments and apartment complexes. Most of my years there, 5 or 6 years, were specifically in hotels. I did 3 hotels up in the Bay Area, ranging from $50 to $70 million each. And then I did 2 hotels in Santa Monica, around $75 to $100 million. And so, you know, that's essentially the experience I have right now. I just finished and I'm wrapping up a 100 or 220 unit luxury apartment complex on the coast in Ventura. And yeah, so I've had dealt with very, very difficult cities, probably the most difficult in Santa Monica, and got a lot of lessons out of that. I've dealt with very complicated issues on job sites, whether it be the lack of urgency within, your general contractor, non-responsive consultants, cities that throw curveballs left and right. I've, been able to battle them through and finish successfully those projects.
That's awesome. Man, your resume sounds like mine. I get tired when people ask me, Jerome, what do you do for a living? What do you used to say, or how did you get here? I always had like 5 or 6 things going on at the same time. And so it like my story sounded, when I used to tell it, I was like, damn, it sounds like I'm lying, because there's like no person on earth that can handle as much shit as I've got going on, right? And so I'm listening to your resume and I'm like, oh man, when he's 14 years old, freshman in high school, and you're interning doing stuff. Well, everybody else is out chasing boys and girls and out looking for parties and football games, which I'm sure you were still out doing too. But you had to focus, right, on what you were going to do long term, which is real cool. Because my parents had me in classes like that too. They forced me to go and take some of the DECA and honors classes that did some of that stuff. And now I look back and I'm like, damn, I'm glad I did that stuff, because 1, I met cool people, and 2, I learned a lot of cool stuff. And just like you at 14 years old working in the construction industry, who would have thought that you would have still been doing what we're doing at 14 on a larger scale at the age of 34, 20 years later? Yes, I think it's awesome. So
yeah, no, it's been great. A lot of stress though, going through some of these challenging projects.
Yeah, but bro, what isn't stressful, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
being broke
absolutely
is stressful. In my life, I sit back and go, damn, one thing that I don't have to stress out about is paying my mortgage or buying food, which is most people's stress. So I sit back and go, what we do is it's stressful for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no and ifs or buts about it. But damn, life is stressful if you let it be.
Yep.
So
That's true.
So, one of the reasons I want to bring you on, David, is because there's a way to manage that stress and make projects go simpler. You know that, I know that, and people watching this, I want them to know that, for those that don't. And I think a lot of the people that watch our content are a variety of people that are doing fix and flip homes, to people that are wanting to buy a lot, build a new home, and then people that are doing value add stuff. I got a lot of multifamily guys that are syndicating, and they're coming in with these big $1 million projects, and they just want to learn how to manage them correctly. And I think that they can be great asset managers, but bad project managers. And so if I can get good asset managers to become great project managers, their profitability is going to go up. And so I think you could shed a lot of great light on that stuff. Because what do you see as one of the biggest issues in the industry as far as construction and real estate when it comes to specifically to like project management, like managing the construction of renovations or new construction projects?
The biggest thing really is all the waste, and most people not, holding themselves accountable or holding their, coworker accountable. So a lot of the job as a construction manager is getting people to commit to certain timelines and schedules, and following up with them and asking them where they stand, with that due date. That's one big thing. And I always like to start with, and the best mentor I've ever had gave me a formula for a successful project. And it really is true. And I've tried to apply it on different, scenarios and different projects, and it holds true. But it's having a good plan plus a competent team, and all of that is multiplied by desire. And it sounds simple, but it's very challenging to do. It starts right out of the gate. And let's use, for some of you guys doing a home, for example, it starts with the team that you build, on the consultant side, having a baseline schedule. You definitely need, a timeline as you go and you buy these, agreements and get into contract with various contractors. They have to have a schedule that they bought into. And there needs to be, you know, either bonuses if they finish early, I like to do, or repercussions if they, you know, they're late and it was their fault. Now, spinning off of that on something being your fault, a lot of times people just point the finger and say it's somebody else. You know, I'm sure, Jerome, you've run into this every day almost,
Yeah.
where it happens every day. It's never the person's fault. It's always because of, and then you're just, you know, now when I ask questions on sites, you know, I expect it most days. I go and I expect that most days, you know, that response where I'm like, okay, now that we cut through whose fault you think it is, you know, what could you have done and what should you have done, you know, to get this task done. So it's getting people, calling people out, you know, it's a constant daily, having weekly meetings, set meetings that you don't miss, where you're getting updates from your consultants, the guys out in the field, even if it's not, you know, a lot of progress that week, still have that meeting, make it a habit for the whole project team. You know, you just have to stay on top of it and set the expectation and you know, cut through all the BS, because I'm telling you, and you know, Jerome, I'm sure you have plenty of stories where it's never the person's fault, ever.
Yeah, never is. Never the subcontractors, never.
Nope,
never
it's the designer, the plans were not coordinated, the city did this,
You know
all day long, man.
You know what's funny about when you're talking about having your weekly meetings and stuff, because everybody, when you're doing a project, one, you need to have like a meeting of the minds, right? You need to get everybody together, your architects, your general contractors, your subcontractors, your project managers, everybody that's involved in managing that project, and before you get started. And then there's always a lot of change orders, you know, and so those of you guys doing individual projects don't have to deal with as much of the change orders unless you're making those change orders. But on commercial stuff and investment stuff, there's always little change orders that are from the city, the municipality stuff that they're requiring code changes. And then there's architectural changes. Then there's this unforeseen circumstances and all this stuff. And so as we move into the project, we always do weekly meetings like you're talking about, David. Sometimes we get away from those. And as soon as we get away from the weekly meetings and we broaden them, like let's say I travel and like that Wednesday meeting that we typically have, and we go 2-3 weeks and I show up and I'm like going, oh my God, it's amazing how just in 2-3 weeks, how things start getting skewed out of place on a 1-year project, just in 3 weeks. And
Yeah.
I've went to projects time and time again. You know, what's funny is that you're right, because when you do them every week, sometimes you feel like, okay, really, there's not much different on the meeting on this agenda than there was last week. But I'll be redundant on stuff, and I'll even make stuff up. Like it's funny. There's been times I've showed up to meetings that I'm supposed to be running and facilitating, and I don't have any notes. I don't have anything, and I haven't even looked at the project. And I'll go in and I start asking like general questions about like just what happens on almost all projects. And I start asking about timeframes on certain things when electricians are coming in. Do they know? Do they have a progress plan on when concrete's supposed to get poured or finished or whatever it is? And I'll just start asking random questions, and all of a sudden I start seeing people scramble.
Yeah.
And then I sit back and all of a sudden everybody's moving. And so even progress meetings that you don't even have 100% planned out, which planning is always better, but sometimes doing those weekly meetings when you're not even ready for it and you just start getting in there and you start holding people accountable by asking just simple nominal questions has made some of the biggest differences as far as us staying on track and us veering off track on a project. Stupid as it sounds and as simple as it sounds, it's one of the most important things that I think we do on every single project that we're facilitating work on. So
yeah, no, you have to make your presence known. And if it's not, you know, you specifically, make sure there's somebody there representing you, and they know that, you know, somebody's watching. You know, in these meetings, you know, a couple basics that I'd, you know, recommend are, you should at the very least, again, it varies on depending on the size of your project, but you want like a 2 to 3 week look ahead schedule on whoever your general contractor is. You know, have them produce that and update it every week, send it out the day before the meeting. And so you can review that schedule in the meeting. You're going to want to review change orders, as you brought up, Jerome. That's another thing. You know, you want to review, you have different sections in your meeting minutes that you want to make sure you cover and go through. And again, like I said, even if there aren't any updates, in particular sections, then you don't need to worry about it. Another basic one I always put is the utility companies as a section. Then I'll put, the city as another section. And then as the project progresses and more issues come up, you can make it its own individual section, so that you're reviewing the same stuff every week, including your schedule. So it's very, very, important to do that.
Yeah, I agree. So if there was 3 or 4 items that you think in order of sequence are the most important items in project management, and it doesn't matter the size of project management. It's like for individuals, let's say we're going to the smallest project of just doing a simple residential fix and flip, for example, all the way up to somebody who's doing an asset management project, doing a value add on a $25 million apartment complex, and everything in between. What do you think would be like 3 or 4 just key tips that people should grab onto as far as project management that they could utilize, take away and say, look, I need to remember these 4 David Carbajal tips on every single project that I underwrite and I do to make every one of my projects better? What do you think those 4 tips are?
One is to get a schedule. I've been on some projects where the general contractor wouldn't give us a schedule and kept making excuses and making excuses. And if you don't have a schedule that, the person actually doing the work is bought into and committed to, financially committed to, then, you can't really, sorry, I got a call coming in here, but you can't really hold anybody accountable to anything. So even if it's a flip, like you said, Jerome, get a schedule from the guy you're paying to do the work right out of the gate and tie his contract to that. It could be very general and basic, but if you don't do that, you have nothing to press and hold people accountable on. So that's one. We spoke about this a little bit earlier, but have consistent meetings, and it doesn't have to be weekly. It could be bi-weekly, but just have a consistent, meeting that you're having, to make sure that everybody is doing their part. As an owner, you're paying a lot of money for all these consultants, for the general contractors, for everybody on that job. That money is coming from you one way or the other. It's coming from you. So unfortunately, most people don't respect your money as much as you care about your money. And you need to make sure that they're giving you what you paid for. That's, that'd be the second one. Another one, and we talked about, making sure that you're present, or making sure that your presence is known via an owner representative, and what I've done on a lot of projects is to have a camera that's, nowadays, especially with technology, you can have a live camera or a camera that's taking snapshots of progress at certain increments that you can reference. And you can, at any time, you can pull up your phone or your computer and you could see where your project's at. Not only does that help keep you up to date and up to speed on current progress, but that is amazing. It's an amazing tool when change orders come up later in the game and your general contractor saying, I got a rain delay on these 2 weeks, because of this. And you could pull up those specific dates. And if they're out there working, then they don't get a delay. That's just a small example. But that's always especially now, Jerome, with technology. You could put up a drop cam or any camera, depending on the size of the project.
I wish we had those back in the day. I remember when I was first doing business up in Arizona, and back after the recession, I was buying single family homes and fourplexes. And I landed up putting together 62 units of fourplexes. It took me 2 years to buy all of it, right? And we were renovating these things, and the renovations were simple. And then we were doing some single family homes. We landed up buying another 11 single family homes. So between 2009 and 2012, we accumulated all those assets up there in Phoenix. And it was funny, when I first started doing it, I would fly out there about once every 2 weeks to check on stuff. And then I was getting calls. When we started getting to the end of the project, I started getting calls saying how these guys we were in need of certain materials. And and I thought I would go back and I look at the project and say, no, we already renovated that unit. Why does that unit need air conditioning parts? And they were taking them from other units and poaching them, and putting the other ones and charging us for materials and labor. So what I landed up doing, Dave, is we went, I landed up flying a girl down from Albuquerque just to sit out there in one of the projects, set up an office in one of the garages of one of the properties. And then she would just drive the properties once a day, twice a day. And I set her up with a laptop, a cell phone, and we forwarded the lines over there. And she did exactly what she does in her office here from out there. And she had a punch clock for employees that are working for us. And so we started actually punching hours, and it was amazing. Our labor costs went down by 28% in 30 days. And our productivity went up by like 100% in 30 days. So we doubled our productivity and decreased our labor costs in 30 days just by having a $15 an hour employee on site doing her work in a garage during the time when, just to be able to manage labor hours. And I mean, just that alone saved us so much money once we figured out all the chaos that was going on down there and what we were losing. And so I think that's a great tip, to be able to have just somebody with boots on the ground. If you can't be there all the time, just somebody that represents you and will advocate for you, I think it's great. And if you're in your own city, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing it. Not you, David, but you, the people out there. And yeah, I mean, I think those are great tips. Because just like your number one, have a progress plan, which I call a business plan. One thing that we do is every single project that we have, it's different, right? So we sit back and we write out a business plan of what we're anticipating that needs to be done from start to finish. And then we do a timeline, like a chronology of events, a timeline of when things have to get finished so that we can get to our end result by a certain date, so that we can go to market with whatever asset we have for leasing, for tenants, whatever we're doing, we're able to go to market with it and stabilize that asset at a given time so that we're not behind schedule. So.
Yep. And then the last tip. So one is, like you said, you either have a business plan for a project or you have a schedule that's all bought in by the people performing the work. You have your meetings to hold everyone accountable. You can kind of make it part B is to have a camera or presence on site. And then another big one that I've learned the hard way is to fire fast and hire slow. So, when you're setting up your project team, make sure you vet them out, make sure you interview them, check their references, make sure they're the right fit. And then if your project starts and you have, a weed in your garden, pull that thing, because if not, it gets huge and it starts to take over your garden, your project, the morale on the project is going to go down the drain, and it's going to be 100 times harder to, steer your ship and your project in the right direction if you wait to get rid of a bad seed. And an example of that, is a superintendent that just, isn't happy at all, hates his job and finds every excuse for everything and just drags down the whole morale of that project. And I've had it happen to me. And, it was very difficult later to make the switch and kick him out, as it would have been, the first 2 meetings that we had, and we saw some red flags.
Yeah, man, I agree with that. And it's hard, that's harder said than done, because I've even been guilty of that, because you sit back and, man, this guy already understands the project. You're thinking in your head, okay, I got to train somebody else. I'm going to have to start from ground one. You think about the time that's going to take for you. And I'll tell you time and time again, every single time that I've kept somebody on a job site that I knew better. And my wife tells me this, because I'll go home and we, wives and husbands talk, and I'll sit back and say, yeah, so-and-so, yeah, pain in the ass again today, this, and this. And, or I'll say, or she'll ask sometimes, hey, how is so-and-so performing? Because they hear our stories rather than me on the phone, dealing with stuff in the home office. And she'll say, you should just fire him. And I'll think to myself, yeah, easier said than done, right? And then I sit back and go, damn, I should have just fired him earlier, because it never gets to the end of the project. If somewhere in that project, everything, chaos hits the roof, and you sit back and go, okay, you're gone now, out of here. At that point in time, you're like, I'm going to pick up pieces at any expense because I'm sick of them. And every single time that dead weight is gone, it's like a relief. You think it's going to be a burden, but even the next day, even the employees that are on that job site, once that person's gone, you're surprised. Leadership actually, 9 times out of 10, leadership steps up right in front of you. You don't even have to go out seeking people. A lot of times, like on our job sites, once that dead energy's gone, people that are on that job site, they already know that project, and out of the woodworks, they start stepping up to the occasion, and they want to take that leadership role, or they at least they want that project to run smoother, and they want to have better morale on the project. And so what I've learned is that those people come in and they go to bat for you without even asking. It's amazing.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, no, I think that's super cool. I wish I could explain to so many people. This is one of the big things that I tell people has made us the most money, but it's also can lose people the most money. And for a lot of people getting started on projects, it doesn't matter the size of the project. They look at someone like you, David, that's doing multi-million-dollar, huge management projects, and they say, okay, well, how do I compare myself to him? And it's super simple because each and every one of you guys has the ability to manage, and a lot of money to one person is a different definition to another person. So like to me, $1,000 to me is a lot of money, where I know $1,000 to everybody on here should be a lot of money. Even if you're worth millions of dollars, I don't want to throw $1,000 in the trash, right? There's stuff I can do with that. I can pay taxes with it. I can go out and take my family out on a vacation with it and write it off, make it a business trip. There's a lot I can do with even $1,000. But if you multiply that $1,000 by each day that you have inefficiency, and you have 20 days of inefficiency, that's $20,000 of profit that went into somebody else's pocket from waste. And so I don't care how you look at any project. You can go in, you look at a little tiny fix and flip project. You look at building a house, the difference between it taking you 4 to 5 months to build it versus 11 to 12 months to build the same asset. Or if it's a renovation to an apartment complex, or you're building a brand new commercial complex out the gate, out of the ground from dirt to full conception. If you can save time, I always tell them, time equals money. And so one, the value of your time is priceless. You can't put a dollar bill on it. So anytime you save managing a project and condensing it is time that you save off your back. And second, money. Because you have lost wages, you have more theft. I always tell my crews, the longer it takes guys to finish, the more problems we have in regards to like damages, issues, stuff that's done incorrectly, theft, materials missing, just the whole thing all the way down the line. If you just think about the mismanagement of projects, any scenario that you've ever heard nightmares about, the longer that project goes on, those nightmares start to unfold. And so I always tell people, project management is probably one of the most important things to maximize your income in real estate, commercial, residential, any class of real estate. And ladies and gentlemen, if you guys can understand the project management game in any of your real estate endeavors, in any of them, I promise, if you can understand it and you can implement a system of management skills that have been proven by people who are successful in the industry, you'll save yourself a ton of money and you'll make yourself a whole lot more money. And so, to me, it's only common sense to do it. It is a little bit more stressful to manage things 100% correctly. But at the end of the day, when you do it, I think it reduces stress over the long haul. What do you think, David?
Absolutely. No, it does. And like you said, every day you're not open, depending on what type of project you're working on, that's money going to money heaven, and it'll never come back. So yeah. It's very, very important.
Man, you make that lost money sound prettier than I do. You call it heaven money. That money go to heaven. I'm like, that's trash can money. Every time I'm throwing money,
it's gone.
Trash can money, man. That money
that's right. It's dead.
So when we were servicing debt during the recession, man, I would tell my wife, okay, we paid out $100,000 in mortgage payments during the recession, those months that we were paying 6 figures in payments, where we didn't have that coming in, and it was trash can money. And so I remember a year later, my wife asked me, how much trash can money do we have going out this month? I was like, yeah, we only have $28,000 in trash can money. She's like, only $28,000. I was like, well, shit, this time last year, we were throwing over $100,000 a month in the trash. So yeah,
Yep.
41,000 didn't sound that bad at the time, but we never lost money. You know, every asset landed up making us money. That interim time is stressful though, and so I always tell people, anything you can do to master project management and systems in any project that you're doing, do it, because you'll make a whole lot of money. You'll keep a lot more in your bank account and reduce your stress, even as stressful as it might seem, to put it together. So I think it's a give.
Absolutely.
See, is that a Denali you're driving? GMC?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
I see. I tell them to stitch it. Have the same
Yep.
Denali
That's the
backdrop.
mobile office when you're in
Mobile office,
construction
man.
and real estate.
We're talking
Yep.
about-
Driving around everywhere, checking on things.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. David was in his truck, and I said, hey, that looks like my office 90% of the time. You guys have all seen me doing podcasts and YouTube lives out of my truck. When you guys see me doing that out of my truck, it's because my day went awry. It's because I was trying to get to the office and I just never quite got there. And so I landed up having like Daniel or somebody. I'm like, Daniel, well, I can't get to the office in time. I need you to beeline out here to this job site. And he'll just fly out to meet me. And as commitment goes, we're live, you know.
That's right.
Under all circumstances. So,
Yep.
well, it was great to have you. I know there's a ton of information that the viewers can take away from this, and the main points being, you know, what you do as far as building a business plan and a financial plan, being able to go in and be able to have boots on the ground throughout the entire project, and being able to go in and have weekly meetings. And what was your number 4? Was your number 4 was
Get rid of the bad weed.
Get rid of the
weed on the project.
get rid of
That's
the
right.
bad apple, the bad
That's
weed
right.
in the garden. That's it. And so, David, you're awesome, bro. I'm excited to do some work up in California, man. You guys are gonna start seeing a lot more of David. We're working right now. We're gonna buy some funny assets, man. I'm telling you guys, we're going old school on you guys. I'm gonna bring back some of the old school stuff that I was doing back in the early 2000s that made me a ton of money. And the reason that I'm gonna be doing that is because what we're going to work on teaching people now is not only how to develop wealth in real estate, but how to stabilize their existing life. You know, and I built, and I'll just kind of end on this quick story. I went through so much business chaos, David, when I first got started when I first got started in my construction business. I had a life before that in network marketing, direct sales, and I rode that business roller coaster for a few years where I struggled for 3 years. Then I did really, really good. Then the FTC shuts down. I did really, really bad. And then I had to figure it out again. And we've rode this roller coaster. And so I told my wife, who's my girlfriend at the time, back in the late 90s, I said, look, I'm going to create a lifestyle where I can live on $4,000 a month. Mortgage, car payments, food, you name it. My personal expenses, $4,000 a month. Because this way, if anything goes awry, I can go use my degree, get a job, and I can make a living on $4,000 a month, right? Because back then, $4,000 a month, that was a good living in the 90s. And David, I'll tell you, man, I built my whole life around that. And still to this day, my personal expenses are well under $4,000 a month. Like, I don't have car payments. We own our cars outright. You know, we don't have mortgage payments and stuff. And yeah, people look and say, yeah, well, it's easy for you to say. Well, no, I did this back when I was broke, right? I set this up when I was broke. And so now I look at it and I go, look, it's a great place to be now because we have debt on assets, stuff that makes us money, right? But those are business debts. They're not personal debt. It's business debt that makes us money. But we have no dumb shit debt that we had. $4,000 a month, bro, forever. And so my whole thing is the reason I want to go back to old school in some of the stuff that we do in California, so I can show people, look, man, you can build a modest living if initially, and then you can create wealth while you're doing it, and you can stabilize assets. And we go in, we buy small assets, and then we take down a big project like we were talking about this morning, right? How we buy some smaller assets like little 15,000 square foot buildings, and then we buy a big project that's like a $20 million project, and we make like $6 million on this. We take a good percentage of 25% of it, and boom, we pay off this other asset over here. And now that thing just cash flows for us always and forever. And we buy 3, 4, 5 of those. And then we build out 1, 2 big projects going on at any given time. And we continue just paying these other little assets off. These little assets stabilize your life. These big assets get you wealthy. And that's the goal. Is taking these small assets to stabilize your life so that the mortgage payments, the food on your table, the education for your children are not a big deal anymore. Now you can create wealth because you're not stressed out with the encumbrance of life. You can go out and create life like this, and you get mass wealth on this other end with big projects. So, bro, I'm excited to unfold this with you, and I think it's going to be fun. California, here we come, man. We're going to do this.
That's right.
1 hour Pier drive of the Carbajal residence, and so
There you go.
right in the heart of California, we're going to make some stuff happen. We're going to make some action happen in California. So
I'm pumped.
Yeah, I am too, man. Anything else before we leave, David? How can people find you, and if you want them to find you, and maybe
Yeah.
last minute words before we end the show today?
No, just, continue to go out there and get those projects going and take the leap on a lot of things and make them happen, guys. If you don't go take action and make them happen, nobody's going to hand anything to you. That's one thing I've recently really taken to heart, and I'm doing myself right now. So do that, and you can find me and follow me just at my Instagram at David M Carbajal. It's at David M Carbajal. So pretty simple. I'm sure Jerome, maybe he could throw it up in the notes or something.
We sure will. They'll be in the post as well, and so we'll have.
And so you guys ask me any questions you have regarding project management. I'm happy to help anytime.
That's awesome. Look, ladies and gentlemen, David took his busy time out of his busy schedule to be here. If you guys like the content that you guys hear today, give us a thumbs up. Smash that thumbs up button. Let David know that you appreciate him being here, his time. And for more content just like this, pound that bell and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We bring you more incredible people just like David. For people that are part of our real estate domination and stuff, some of the guest speakers that we're going to have this next year, some of the ones that we're bringing onto these lives. And I haven't even talked to David about this, but I know that with some of what we have going on, some of our guest speakers in November are going to be like David Carbajal, and so we haven't even talked about it yet, but he's not a public speaker. And like I always tell you guys, I don't bring public speakers. I bring real life professionals to teach you guys how to do it. They become public speakers and educators at in my expense, and in my expense of putting them out there and pushing them. And so we're excited. But anyways, give us that thumbs up, pound and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Real Talk on Real Estate Wednesdays. We appreciate you guys being here. God bless you guys, and go out and make it a great day. And don't forget to compound your success.
So we're gonna end it on your end?
Okay. This is a YouTube.
Yeah, end it.
Okay, I'll call you, David.